So I added a pedal to my Miller MaxStar 161, which uses a 6-pin Miller cable. But my pedal is an ArcCaptain, which is a really low-cost $100 pedal. And what I did is I converted it to, so this is the connector on the hand control, which also has the 6-pin connector. So I converted it to that for about a $20 connector. So you can get a pretty cheap overall pedal. So the ArcCaptain comes with 2 cables. One of them I definitely wasn't going to use because I wasn't sure what it's used on, but not the other ArcCaptain welders. So I'm going to take that cable and add this connector to it, and this is what I'm going to show you how to do in the video. So the trick is this part number here, which is a version, so it's not the same brand, but it's a compatible, it has the same size contacts, it's a compatible version of the connector, and you can buy it off Digi-Key, so that's the key. The official one you can't buy as easily. So what we're going to do is we'll take the cable, cut off this, and add that guy. You can find the schematic for both of these, so I've put them up on screen here. They're also linked in the resources. Both have a switch, a variable resistor, and you need to figure out which side of that resistor you're using, because basically one side of the resistor is going to be when the pedal's off, and the wiper swipes down as the pedal gets connected. So I'll show you that. The other thing is that in the schematic for the Miller one, there's those little capacitors. So I opened up the ArcCaptain to confirm that there are capacitors on the variable resistor as well, so we don't have to worry about that. We'll just kind of directly convert these two and see how they work. So I'm going to show you how to pin it out as well. I have the reference up there so you can compare what I'm doing with the known schematic. So basically I'll just go through, these two are one side of the wiper, for example. These two here are both connected to ground. So we can compare the kind of low wiper resistance to ground. Across the wiper we see it's 1K. So one thing you'll note is that this is a 1 kilo ohm. The ArcCaptain has a 10K variable resistor. Because of how the ratio is measured, it shouldn't really matter, but we'll confirm that. So these other 2 pins on the left here are the switch. So when I close the switch, you'll see they go to a low resistance. So if you didn't have this reference, you could easily go ahead and measure all of these. And so right now I have the little thumb screw. I had it set to a not off position, like, you know, halfway, and you saw the resistance was different. So we need to know where the low resistance when it is off, because we're going to want to match that with the ArcCaptain one. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my connector. So this is the connector. It's got a back thingy. We'll have to make sure that goes over the cable. It's also got this strain release piece, so that goes in it like this. We got to make sure we get this all on the cable first, and this will give us a nice strain relief for it. So before we put that on, we could strip the cable, so we get the wires. These wires actually, conveniently, the ArcCaptain manual had colors. I double check it just to be sure, because, you know, they might have changed it. They don't actually care what color is what, but I do, right? Because if their cable goes through, it might not. So I sped it up here, obviously, but kind of the same process. I'm just checking that the resistances make sense. I'm also figuring out which is the low side of that variable resistor. So once I have all that, I put the that back thing on the cable. Very important. We need that stuff on before we put the pieces on, because they have to go together in the right order. I'm using a bit of isopropyl alcohol. This cable is too thick for the connector. It's not really designed for this connector, so it's a real squeeze. IPA will totally evaporate, right? So unlike a lube or something, it doesn't leave any residue. So it's not quite as good as a lube, but it will do what we need. And you don't have to go very far. If you put the connector together and then we look at where this connector is going to go, you'll see that we don't need it to go very far. So you don't have to worry about pushing that thing really far on. Finally, we can put this ring. So again, triple check if you're just tuning in that you have the pieces on the wire before you solder this guy on. And then you can use, so here I've converted from the Miller to the ArcCaptain color code. So double check the color code is right. But this is what I used. And watch that you have two, the black connects to two. So you kind of either need another little jumper. I was real lazy and just shorted it with solder. But that's kind of what you're going to have to do. So pre-tune the wires. They don't quite fit. Again, They're a little big for this connector, but it was more than good enough for what I needed. So, and again, you'll have a 10K instead of a 1K, but after you solder this up, get a multimeter and check that you've done it right, because if you mess it up, right, it could be bad. You don't want to short out that output voltage from the welder or anything like that. So check it all out, and again, don't forget to connect the two grounds together. So you can see it's a bit messy, but definitely will work fine. And once we have that and we're happy enough as it may be, what I'll do is I will then pull the whole thing forward. So we pull that little ring forward first, and you've got to align it so it falls through. Everything kind of aligns and will pull through, and then the back shell piece will pull through too. It's a bit tighter because you're also pulling the strain relief at the same time. After you do this, you should check, right, if you've dislodged any wires. You could easily do that. You'll have to make sure the back shell fits. There's some little notches that it goes through. It should clip together and be very secure. At that point, you can, after you've checked it out, plug it in. So again, check with the DMN first that the measurement's right, that there's no shorts. I'm then going to turn this on, and it's real simple now. I have it in high frequency mode, so if I push down, it should turn on, and the current should change. So we can confirm the switch works and the low potentiometer works. So that's it. So that's how you convert a low-cost ArcCaptain or really any welding pedal to your Miller 6-pin cable. Hopefully this is helpful. I've linked a post with more information. I plan on doing some teardowns of welders. This isn't a welding channel, so don't subscribe if you want a bunch of welding stuff, but it might be interesting. Otherwise, I hope you found this useful, because it might give you a cheaper pedal. You can really easily convert these ArcCaptain ones to your Miller 6-pin connector. So thanks for watching.